It was July 1985. A new movie about time travel, Back to the Future, had been shown in cinemas for several days. Michael J. Fox, who played Marty McFly, picked up the phone to talk to his agent. "I've watched the movie," heard the actor on the other end of the line. Without listening to the end, Michael immediately began to make excuses. "I'm sorry, I'll try harder next time." "No, you don't understand," his interlocutor explained excitedly. "This is the main film of the summer." It turned out later it was the main film, not only for one summer and even a decade. Back to the Future quickly became a cult hit. Ironically, one of the actors would get the title of a legend after the release of the film. However, this movie would almost destroy his life. The second one threw the script into the trash can before the shooting of the film, which was supposed to glorify him. It's Biographer. Today, we will go back to the future to find out how Marty and Doc lived before, during, and after the filming of Back to the Future. Are you ready? We're starting. Christopher Alan Lloyd, the man who would be simply called Doc by future audiences, was born in Stamford on October 22, 1938. He was the youngest child of 3 boys and 4 girls in a family of a successful lawyer and singer. Despite such numerous children in the family, Christopher did not spend much time with them because he was much younger than others. "My siblings were already off in the world doing whatever they wanted to do. My 2 brothers were in the Second World War. One was a pilot, one was a Marine. Thank heavens they both came back alive and well. But I grew up pretty much by myself with my parents." The actor's mother was from the noble family of John Howland, one of the first settlers of America, passengers of the Mayflower ship who settled in New England in the 1600s. The movie star spent his childhood in elite educational institutions and in several mansions, including a house in New Canaan, which Miss Lloyd later presented to the city. At the age of 14, Christopher got into one of the popular summer theaters, performing right in the open air. His decision to try his hand in that field was influenced by his older brother Samuel, who was an actor. He mainly performed in theater. Lloyd also recalled how, as a child, his mother took him to Laurence Olivier's Hamlet. She thought that being small, Christopher would not understand anything, but the boy left the cinema fascinated and inspired by that film. The acquaintance with one of the best actors of all time made a strong impression on the young Lloyd.
"Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune."
The acting immediately fascinated the boy, and he could not think of any other career since that time. While attending Staples High School in Connecticut, Christopher acted in amateur plays and dreamed of acting. After graduating from Staples High School in coastal Westport in 1958 with honors, he went to study acting in New York. "I need to express myself, and I gradually discovered that through acting in a role, I could relate to people, so I stuck with it." There, he began studying in Sanford Meisner's drama class. That teacher was famous for teaching talent, teaching young actors the technique of acting according to the system of Konstantin Stanislavski, but in his own interpretation. The student was distinguished by enviable perseverance. He remained in the lecture hall until the last minute, often being alone, and repeated the material. "I had no confidence I'd ever get anywhere with it, but I persisted and something worked, so here we are." Christopher attended practical classes and always visited the screening room when science fiction films were shown. Usually, he watched such films several times. His passion for fantasy subsequently became the main theme in his work. Alongside his studies, Lloyd also lived his love life. In 1959, he married Catherine Dallas Dixon Boyd. That marriage lasted 12 years. Before starting to act, Christopher actively played in the theater during his student days, honing the skill of transformation, gaining experience, and rising to a higher artistic height with each performance. The debut of the actor on stage took place in the production of 1961, based on the play by Fernando Arrabal, and They Put Handcuffs on the Flowers. The young actor was quickly noticed, and already in the early 1970s, you could see the artist's name almost on every Broadway theater poster. Lloyd played the main characters in Shakespeare's productions of A Midsummer Night's Dream, Macbeth, and King Lear on the stages of small theaters. Soon, Christopher's stock of plays grew to 200 roles. One of the reasons for his high demand was considered not only a great talent, but also the characteristic appearance of the actor as well as his voice. It was creaky and had a rare low timbre, allowing him to perfectly embody the images of insidious villains. In 1973, his acting career was awarded the most prestigious award in the theatrical environment, the Drama Desk Awards. He was awarded for the lead role in the production of Caspar, based on the play drama by Peter Handke. A year later, Lloyd remarried. His second wife, Kay Tornberg, was also an actress. However, that marriage did not last long. The couple broke up in 1987. In general, the actor hid his personal life very carefully. He rarely gave interviews, nobody knew much about his relationship. In the meantime, he had a lot of work. The movie career of Christopher Lloyd began relatively late. At that time, he was already 33 years old. In 1975, he was noticed by the famous director Milos Forman, who decided to film Ken Kesey's popular bestseller, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Lloyd was auditioning for the role of the crazy Max Tabor, which he played brilliantly.
Look, come on. I can be pushed just so far, see?
Play the game.
You touch me once more.
the game.
Just touch me once more. Just once more, huh? Just once more.
In some sense, that character predetermined the artist's career since he showed his strongest side. He could convincingly show unstable, if not crazy, heroes who lived in their own minds, but who were always very interesting to watch. It was clear that Jack Nicholson was the main star in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but without an impressive supporting cast, the film would never have worked.
It was great because I think most of us were there about 2 weeks before we started shooting, and we go to the various areas of the facility, people in for different levels of emotional problems. And we sat in on meetings, actually, like the ones in the film. So it was great. It was really helpful.
A successful debut encouraged the actor to move to Los Angeles and try himself in the Hollywood film industry. Soon, he began to receive job offers to take part in movies and television shows. Basically, it was minor roles in westerns and detectives. In the mid-80s, the future Dr. Emmett Brown managed to take part in another cult sci-fi franchise. Lloyd played the role of Commander Kruge in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. It was not easy to play being in such makeup, but Lloyd did a great job and added that role to his collection of villainous roles.
How do you feel you've been able to get into the mind of these more villainous characters?
Well, maybe I'm a repressed criminal. It's just an outlet. I don't know, I enjoy it.
Give me what I want.
Lloyd became popular after the television series Taxi, in which he played the Reverend Jim Ignatowski. The series became extremely successful and was nominated for 31 Emmy Awards, of which it won 13 during its existence. Taxi is now on TV Guide's list of the 50 greatest TV shows of all time. The show was filmed from 1978 to 1983. Lloyd, whose films were becoming more in demand, received 2 Emmy Awards and the Best Supporting Actor nomination during that period.
I married 2 people stark naked in the woods.
You mean the whole wedding party was nude?
No, just me. They changed their minds at the last minute and forgot to tell me.
Have you watched that series or any of Lloyd's other projects besides Back to the Future? Be sure to write in the comments which characters you like the most. Of course, thanks to his role in Taxi, Lloyd became quite popular in the US. However, soon he would play in a film that would make him famous worldwide. In 1984, the producer Neil Canton talked to Lloyd. He knew him well from work on the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension. It turned out that Canton was going to shoot a new film about time travel and was looking for an actor to play a slightly mad scientist. At first, Lloyd turned down the role, but the producer persuaded him to read the script. Do you think Lloyd immediately fell in love with the story and agreed to participate after reading the script? No, he didn't. He threw the script in the trash can, and only a long conversation with a friend convinced him to give that story a chance. We should mention that Lloyd was not the first and only candidate for the role of Doc. Jeff Goldblum, John Lithgow, Dudley Moore, Ron Silver, and Robin Williams also auditioned for this role. But in the end, Lloyd got the part and would later make viewers love him worldwide. It wasn't the problem for the filmmakers to find Doc, but it was much more difficult for the creators of Back to the Future to get Marty McFly. Marty Michael Andrew Fox was born on June 9, 1961 in the Canadian province town of Edmonton. The Fox family was half creative since Michael's mother acted in films in her youth. After marriage and the birth of 5 children, the woman decided to change her career of artist to the more steady profession of a clerk. Her film career was hindered by her husband's job. Bill Fox served in the Canadian Armed Forces. During his service, he moved from one city to another, and a large family traveled around the country with him. The nomadic way of life ended when Michael was 13 years old because the head of the family resigned. The Foxes settled in the town of Burnaby, a suburb of Vancouver. Michael went to the school where Bryan Adams studied, who was older by a year and a half. Michael was outgoing and friendly, but sharp-tongued. He once told the coach, who was pushing him into the background, "If you put me last, I will do everything to make you look stupid." And the coach did not doubt that he would do it. However, Michael's height did not allow his dream of being a hockey player to come true. Michael started skating at an early age and passionately dreamed of becoming famous in the sport. However, he ended his career at school competitions because he didn't have the most athletic physical form. Michael became passionately interested in rock when he was 15 years old, estimating his musical chances above sports ones. His parents accepted rock and roll, and Fox received a wonderful gift on Christmas. It was a real Fender guitar. As he would later say, "It became obvious to me that rock and roll is a more realistic way to fame than the NHL." But he never became a professional musician. Michael had another future. The teacher at the acting studio noticed the charismatic guy during his school years and invited Michael to try his hand at acting. A funny boy with a great mimic quickly developed a taste for that. There are many actors among the children of the military. You were constantly getting used to new places and new schools. Willy-nilly, you should either look for a way to attract attention to yourself or become an outcast. Fox soon began to attend auditions and starring in episodes of various TV shows with the suggestion of a teacher. As a result, in the late 70s, he played an episodic role as a schoolboy in Family and appeared in the series The Magic Lie and The Love Boat. Michael played the role of a 12-year-old boy, the protagonist's brother, in the TV series Leo and Me. At that time, Michael was already 15, but he really looked too young. Michael Fox became an actor in great demand. He was performing at the best theater in Vancouver a year later. He was invited to TV projects and advertising. Work in the film studio fascinated Michael so much that he did not dream of any other profession. Plus, an acting career meant for him a lot of money. During one summer on the set, Michael earned 10 times more than his classmates at the local fish factory. He played in Edward Perron's drama Letters from Frank at the age of 17. The producer of the film recommended the boy move to Los Angeles and seriously pursue an acting career. Fox listened to the advice. He packed his suitcase and shocked his parents with the announcement that he was going to Los Angeles at the age of 18. His father did not resist his son's decision and personally took Michael to Los Angeles and also gave him $3,000, which should have been enough for the first time. The young man had to take a pseudonym when he arrived in Los Angeles. The namesake, the actor Michael Fox, was already on the list of the Guild of American Actors. So there was a creative pseudonym, Michael J. Fox, under which the star from Canada was recognized worldwide. The aspiring artist borrowed his second name from his idol, Western actor Michael J. Pollard. The path to glory turned out to be thorny and not as easy as he would like. Fox began to appear in commercials and minor roles in minor films, like the comedy Midnight Madness and the action crime thriller Class of 1984. Suddenly, for Michael, his short stature became an obstacle to his path to fame. All partners turned out to be head and shoulders above him. The actor himself later joked, "My height has never given me problems. If I was fat, it would be different. And when you're small, you just have to live with it, or walk in platform shoes." Although his relatives knew that at the time he had gained a lot of weight, trying to hide his weight, he even went on a diet for a long time. It was hardly possible to live on the money from the filming. That's why he also worked at a diner. A new series of episodic roles seemed like disasters. His father's money quickly ran out, and Michael had to move from a rented flat to a garage, selling his car and starting to eat cheap pasta. Fox actually didn't have work, was indebted to everyone around him, and was rapidly gaining weight. At some point, Michael was ready to pack his bags and return home in disgrace. But then, there was a call from a nearby cafe. Fox couldn't even afford a phone, so he left the number of a local dive bar to contact. That call was fateful for Michael since he finally was noticed and invited to audition for the role of Alex Keaton in the Family Ties sitcom.
I'm checking the light fixture.
Alex, mice can't fly.
Oh, yeah. You ever hear of Mighty Mouse, Jen? Was he wearing a cape, Dad?
Michael was not supposed to get that role. Show creator Gary Goldberg wanted Matthew Broderick to play Alex, but he refused, not wanting to work with a multi-year contract. And then it was time for casting director Judith Weiner. She was impressed by Michael during the auditions. The woman persuaded Goldberg to give Michael a chance. So Weiner calls him in, and I say, "Anything you want me to tell you?" He goes, "No, just do it better, huh?" And he gives me this little smile, and I'm thinking, Matthew, who? It was like, boom, he nailed it. He just played who he was. He played another side. He was Mike. And as soon as he left, I turned to Judith and I said, "That kid's great. Why didn't you tell me about him?" As a result, Fox was approved. The nation liked his characters so much that the show quickly shifted its focus from liberal parents to conservative kids, especially Alex Keaton. The ratings were high, and even President Reagan named Family Ties his favorite show. The actor starred in a couple of television films during the filming of the show, but America knew and loved him only as Alex.
I just knew that was my part. I just knew it was my part. I knew I got it. I understood it. I knew how to make it. I thought I knew how to make it funny. I was basically just playing my brother, who was the smart ass in our family and was so much smarter than everybody else. And my brother, I never understood the idea of timing, but I knew that my brother was so funny that you'd wait for what he had to say. So what I later understood to be timing back then was just my brother was so funny at the dinner table that you'd wait for what he had to say. He'd put his glass of milk down, and from the minute he took the glass away from his mouth, you were waiting for what he had to say. So later on, that all became part of Alex.
Michael received 3 Emmy and Golden Globe Awards for the role. Fox said that he saw a lot of himself in Alex, and the role taught him a lot about acting. What I learned about acting, especially during that show, is that I thought of acting, when I was younger, as something where you put on a character. You're trying to be somebody else, and really what it is you're trying to take stuff off. That's the great fun of playing Alex. He's a kid who's putting on all this stuff, and when it was really effective was when you saw him naked. You see that he's just a scared kid. Family Ties gave Michael not only fame, but also the love of his life. During the filming of the show, he met actress Tracy Pollan, who played Ellen, the girlfriend of his character Alex. In an interview, Tracy described their relationship as old-fashioned, flawless, and optimistic, just like any perfect first love.
Mr. Keaton.
Sweet.
Worked it out yourselves, did you?
Professor Spanos, welcome. I was just explaining the concept of deficit spending to Miss Reed here.
Their own relationship was similar. However, at the time of their meeting, Pollan was dating Kevin Bacon and was even going to marry him, so she and Michael had little contact outside the set. It seemed the actor had a serious relationship with actress Nancy McKeon, and then he was suspected of having a relationship with Courtney Cox, who joined the cast of Family Ties. But in 1985, on the set of Bright Lights, Big City, Michael was smitten with love for Tracy, who also had a role in the project.
You love me.
Yeah. I love you, okay? I said it. I mean, after all, Ellen, if I'm going to go this far, I might as well go all the way. I love you, all right? I love you, I love you, I love you. I'm crazy about you. I'd give anything to be with you. I can't live without you. Okay? Gotta go. See ya.
The actor proposed to his beloved after 7 months of the relationship in December of 1987. They got married in 1988. From the first meeting, I fell in love with his sense of humor and intellect. He is very smart, Pollan later admitted. But there was a test for them before the marriage. A crazy fan of Michael's began to send threatening letters to both of them, sometimes 15 letters a day, after learning about the engagement. The woman was found quickly. It turned out that she was writing from a psychiatric hospital where she was awaiting trial for threatening to arrange a terrorist attack. But we come back to the early 80s. Family Ties gave Michael not only love and first glory. Steven Spielberg saw him. The producer and his protege director and screenwriter Robert Zemeckis prepared a fantastic comedy about time travel. The creators of Back to the Future quickly realized that Michael was the perfect candidate for the role of Marty McFly. But there was a big problem. At that time, Fox was still under contract to shoot in Family Ties, and no one wanted the beloved character to go from the series during filming. Therefore, despite Michael's ardent desire to act in Back to the Future, his candidacy was refused. Zemeckis and Spielberg had to do long-term casting. Johnny Depp, John Cusack, Ben Stiller, and C. Thomas Howell, and many others participated in the audition for that role. The shooting was constantly delayed since Zemeckis could not choose the main character. In the end, several candidates remained. Eric Stoltz was among them. When the director of Universal looked at auditions, he said, "Take Stoltz. I'm so sure he'll pull through that if anything goes wrong, I'll allow you to reshoot it all over again with another actor." Finally, work on the film began. For several weeks, Stoltz diligently played the role of Marty McFly. But the more time passed, the more Zemeckis became aware that something was going wrong. Stoltz is a great actor. He acted wonderfully. It was impossible to wish for better. But with each new take, I realized more and more clearly that Eric is not the Marty McFly that Bob and I came up with when we wrote the script. There was not a hint of the humor that Marty should have. Eric was monstrous, deadly dramatic. Then, Zemeckis decided to remind the director of Universal of his recent words about reshoots and stop the film's production. That difficult decision cost the studio $3 million. But Zemeckis truly believed that only Michael J. Fox could be the real Marty. The studio asked the actor again. It seemed like something unreal, but he agreed despite his absolute employment. He said, "I agree to work day and night, just take me to that film." The actor agreed to work overtime and immediately proved that the authors did not regret their choice. He didn't even have to act because he was just like Marty McFly himself. Eric Stoltz hated skateboarding, but Michael was fond of it since childhood. He also played in several bands during his school years and dreamed of becoming a rock star. He was born for that role. Finally, Doc and Marty found each other. Now, it is hard to imagine that the film turned out to be so successful without the charm of Michael J. Fox and the eccentricity of Christopher Lloyd. However, recalling the actor's replacement, Christopher Lloyd said he worried before filming with Fox. He wasn't sure he would work as well as he did the first time with an unfamiliar actor. But fortunately, everything worked out.
Michael, we had a chemistry which lasted the whole time. We could come back after a break and it would just be there. You didn't have to work for it. So that was great.
Michael immediately jumped into action and made all the scenes filmed earlier with Stoltz in just 2 weeks. Finally, the work on the film went into full swing. Any young actor would no doubt envy Fox's luck, but no one in their right mind would envy his busy schedule. Fox worked on 2 series in a row with almost no rest over 3 months. Fox was involved in filming in the evenings while daytime scenes were filmed over the weekend. In his autobiography, the actor recalled that the driver would pick him up at 9:30 a.m. and take him to Paramount, where Michael would spend the entire day rehearsing that week's show, culminating in a run-through at approximately 5 p.m. each day. Then another driver would pick him up at 6 o'clock and take him to Universal Studios or any other remote location where the group was based that evening, where Fox worked until dawn. Then I was climbing into the back of a van with a pillow and a blanket, and another driver was driving me home again. Sometimes he literally carried me into my flat and put me into my bed. I slept for 2 or 3 hours before the number 1 driver reappeared, then woke me up to start the whole process over. Fox really wanted to go from television to cinema and therefore courageously endured all the inconveniences associated with working on 2 projects at the same time. The director was constantly in a half-asleep state due to the long night shifts, but no one complained. Everyone was under the spell of the unique atmosphere of the 50s. Christopher Lloyd copied his character from the famous conductor Leopold Stokowski, with his tousled white hair and swinging motions. Doc Brown moved like he conducted an orchestra that just he saw. In addition, there was something from Einstein in Brown, especially since he was a crazy genius according to the script. Interestingly, he pronounced the word gigawatt as gigawatt. It is just like it was said by one physicist when Zemeckis and Gale consulted with him about the scientific content of the plot.
No! Not a word, not a word, not a word now. Quiet. Donations. You want me to make a donation to the Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary?
Doc. I'm from the future.
Doc's full name is Emmett L. Brown. Throughout the film, the middle name is never deciphered, and only screenwriter Bob Gale revealed the secret. The full name of the character is Dr. Emmett Lathrop Brown. And if you read it the other way around, you get two words: time and portal. Not everyone knows that the early script for Back to the Future was very different from the movie we know. In the original version, the main character was engaged in video piracy, and he moved to the past using a time machine made of, attention, a refrigerator. The device was going to be delivered to a test site in Nevada so that he would take the impact of a nuclear explosion and send Marty home. But Zemeckis was afraid that children would climb into refrigerators under the impression of the film. Therefore, the car replaced the refrigerator.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Well, later, the idea about the refrigerator nevertheless found someone to embody it on the screen. The title of the film could also be different. Studio head Sid Sheinberg once sent a note to the filmmakers suggesting that they should change the working title from Back to the Future to Spaceman from Pluto. Zemeckis and Gale were outraged, but being newcomers, didn't know how to say no to such a boss. Fortunately, the influential Steven Spielberg was the executive producer of the project, and he knew how to respond. Spielberg wrote back to Sheinberg, "Hi Sid, thanks for your humorous note. We all had a good laugh at it. Keep up the good work." Of course, after this, the head of the studio did not dare to admit that it was not a joke. One of the most striking and beloved scenes in the film was Marty's rock performance. It's hard to believe, but Zemeckis originally wanted to cut it out. Fortunately, the test audience liked it so much that the director nevertheless decided to leave it, and as it turned out, he did the right thing. Since Michael J. Fox was a musician in real life, it was not difficult for him to play a guitarist. However, it was not Fox's guitar playing or vocals that we heard in that iconic scene. Professional musician Tim May performed guitar for that scene, and Fox himself trained additionally with guitar teacher Paul Hansen to imitate May's fingerwork as closely as possible. The film was released in 1985, and for 11 weeks it was the absolute leader at the US box office. The reaction of the audience exceeded all expectations of the filmmakers. As for the Academy Awards, Back to the Future received 4 nominations, including Best Screenplay, but it ended up winning only 1 Oscar for Best Sound Editing. Fox received a Golden Globe nomination for his role, and Lloyd was nominated for a Saturn Award. The film became a pop cultural phenomenon. Even 40 years after the release of the first part, a lot of people continue to revise it, parody it, and make reference to it in other films. And there are even parody series. And of course, the popularity of the first film was the impetus for the creation of 2 more sequels. It would seem that the authors planned a sequel from the very beginning. No wonder the final scene directly hinted at the sequel. But the irony is that the last scene of Back to the Future is a joke. At least they wanted it to be a joke originally. Zemeckis and Gale came up with it as the final prank. They believed it was the best way to complete the film. At that time, they did not think that the film would be so popular and that the studio and fans would ask for a sequel.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Later, Zemeckis and Gale even regretted that they edited the film with that scene without thinking it through properly. It noticeably narrowed their opportunities for creating a sequel by predetermining where the opening act would unfold. In addition, there was a problem with Jennifer, Marty's girlfriend. Zemeckis and Gale didn't know what to do with her at all. In the end, they didn't come up with anything better than quickly putting a character to sleep at the start of the next movie. Originally, they planned only 1 sequel. The script called Paradox combined elements of the second and third parts of the trilogy but compressed it into 1 film. However, the concept of the first version was too similar to the first film, so the creators slightly fixed it and decided to split the story into 2 parts.
Marty! You've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future.
Shooting of the second and third films took place simultaneously for 11 months. Fun fact, during a TV interview, Robert Zemeckis said that flying boards have been invented a long time ago. The skateboard companies just don't want to mass produce them, but the film crew managed to get a few of them. The director was just joking, but after the show aired, Mattel, whose logo you can see on the flying boards, received numerous phone calls from people asking when they could buy them.
Little girl, stop. Look, I need to borrow your hoverboard. Where is he? Here.
The film received positive reviews from critics and grossed $331.9 million worldwide with a budget of $40 million, becoming the 3rd highest grossing film of the year. The final part of the film trilogy was released in 1990 and was also commercially successful. The idea for the 3rd film setting came about when Robert Zemeckis asked Michael J. Fox what era he would like to visit. The actor replied that he always wanted to see the Wild West and meet real cowboys. Zemeckis and Gale jumped at the idea. There was an incident during the shooting. Michael J. Fox did all his stunts on set. In the scene where Marty McFly was about to be hanged, Fox was actually hanging. At some point, it turned out that the rope actually tightened the actor's neck too much. The film crew marveled at how believable Fox acted until he passed out. Filming also had to be interrupted for 2 weeks due to the death of Michael J. Fox's father and later due to the birth of his first son, Sam Michael. Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis wanted the lead characters to develop throughout the trilogy. In the 3rd film, their evolution was not only to move on, but also to come to a complete state. Therefore, they decided to shift the attention from Marty and focus the attention of the audience on Doc in the 3rd movie. The characters have been swapped. If earlier, the first needed salvation and the second acted as a savior, now they exchange those functions.
But it's good to see you, Marty.
By the way, the kiss between Doc and Clara was Christopher Lloyd's first movie kiss in his entire career. The actor himself considered the 3rd film his favorite, precisely because his character has a love line in it. Which part of Back to the Future is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. The franchise has come to its logical end, but the journey of our 2 actors has just begun. After the release of Back to the Future, Lloyd became famous and received a huge number of offers of roles. In 1986, he appeared on screen as Professor Beans in the fantasy series Amazing Stories, and 2 years later, he starred in Zemeckis' detective comedy Who Framed Roger Rabbit, playing the treacherous Judge Rock. His role in that film turned out to be no less vivid and extraordinary than the role of Doc Brown. Lloyd's character was an absolutely infernal character who did not just want to take over the world or kill the main character, but also encroached on the sacred for any child since he wanted to wipe out all cartoons. That was not just an antagonist, but the most concentrated evil with a demonic grin and a terrible secret.
They're not kid gloves, Mr. Valiant. But this is how we handle things down in Toontown.
Lloyd received a Saturn Award nomination for his role. Another noticeable Lloyd film at that time was 8 Men Out, released in 1988. It was a historical drama based on real events. Christopher Lloyd played a journalist who must explore the dark side of the sports industry. His charisma and liveliness suited very well to a press worker who was forced to try on, in fact, the role of a detective. By the way, by that time, Lloyd managed to marry for the 3rd time. He chose Carol Ann Vanek, who was also an actress. They lived together for about 3 years. And of course, it is impossible not to remember the role of Lloyd in The Addams Family. It was a cult film that the audience first saw in 1991.
Crowbar. Dynamite. Cyanide.
The role of Fester made Lloyd's childhood dream come true. He had adored that character since he first saw the original comic as an 8-year-old boy. The eccentric gothic of the Addams Family was perfect for the artistic style of Christopher Lloyd. The whole film was one continuous madness, and every emotion was twisted to the limit. And it was great. We really felt like a family. I remember one time we were all sitting there in our costumes, and we all felt like we were the Addams Family, the real people. The actor was perfect in the role of an awkward and strange Fester. It was even hard to imagine that anyone else could be hiding under that huge layer of makeup. In 1992, Christopher received his 3rd Emmy Award for his excellent portrayal of Professor Dimple in the drama series Road to Avonlea. In the same year, he married for the 4th time to screenwriter and producer Jane Walker Wood. They were together until 2005. It should be noted that the actor, despite a long married life, had no children. By the way, the artist's nephew, Sam Lloyd, was also a famous person. He was a musician and actor who starred as lawyer Ted Buckland in the comedy series Clinic.
First off, I'd just like to say that these charges... We should take a short recess.
Christopher Lloyd loves classical music, fishing, cycling, preferring to live in seclusion. He rarely gives interviews and mentions in his contracts that he has no obligation to participate in promotional campaigns. But journalists who nevertheless manage to communicate with him say that Lloyd is a truly cultured person, friendly and gentle. Lloyd played the main role of a charming Martian named Martin in the 1999 fantasy comedy My Favorite Martian. The actor again demonstrated his inimitable talent as a comedian, making the film a good box office hit. At the beginning of the 21st century, Lloyd continued to play multifaceted characters that are remembered by the viewer, even if they had several minutes of screen time. For example, in 2001, he starred in the film Wit, a drama about a woman with a terminal diagnosis. Lloyd had a small role, but a significant one. He played a surgeon who could find something positive even in the most desperate situation. I don't really mind as long as I'm working, whether it's a lead or cameos or supporting roles. I love to be doing it. I don't wait around for the ideal role to come my way. I'll take what's given. Lloyd often appeared in TV series as a guest star. He starred in the 2003 thriller Tremors, the 2005 comedy Stacked with Pamela Anderson and Brian Scalaro, Chuck with Zachary Levi, and others. Meanwhile, Back to the Future fans continued to love the franchise. It was not surprising that the audience of The Big Bang Theory was delighted when they saw Lloyd in one of the episodes of the famous series.
Theodore, how long are you planning to stay exactly?
Well, thanks to the coins I found in your couch. Stay longer than I thought.
The creators of the series chose an excellent role for the actor. Lloyd played a charismatic and slightly creepy homeless man whom the main character settled in his room in retaliation for his flatmate. In 2014, the actor was among the stars cast in the comedy western A Million Ways to Die in the West, along with Seth MacFarlane, Charlize Theron, and others. He played a small but noticeable role of a drinking surgeon in the action movie Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. Billy O'Brien's undeservedly neglected 2016 film I Am Not a Serial Killer allowed Lloyd to prove the versatility of his acting talent once again. In The Mystical Detective, Lloyd played a seemingly cute old man who lived next door to the main character and definitely hid something. Lloyd was usually not shy of loud emotions, but unexpectedly he played a latent, non-obvious evil. He was a grandfather with a spark of madness in his eyes, which one day would definitely grow into a full-fledged fire.
On what wings dare he aspire?
What?
What the hand dare seize the fire? Just a poem.
Unsuccessful marriages did not discourage Lloyd from marrying. He is growing old and a pair with real estate agent Lisa Lucano, with whom he married in 2016. The actor calls his wife his main fan. The woman is 32 years younger than the actor. Interestingly, Lloyd and Lucano often spend time with the actor's fourth wife, Jane Walker Wood, and her husband. Recently, when a journalist asked Lloyd if he was worried about what his ex-wife and current wife might be talking about, he replied that he could handle it and was glad that they were having fun together. Lloyd has practically no friends. It has been since he moved to New York when he delved into the studying of acting. A working relationship replaces a friendly one for him, and Lloyd seems to be absolutely fine with that. He still speaks warmly about Michael J. Fox. He's courageous, has a great sense of humor, and a wonderful perspective on life. I have such admiration for him. From the first time we met and we shot together, the relationship has always been there. And I know that if we were set to do something else again together, it would still be there. We just have a natural chemistry. The media and fans sometimes ask the actors and creators of Back to the Future just one question: is a sequel to the iconic franchise possible? Earlier, Lloyd said that he would not mind starring in a new part of the cult franchise, but the script must be excellent. However, Robert Zemeckis recently stated that Back to the Future Part 4 would only appear over his dead body. Therefore, all that remains for the main characters is to remember the good old days and delight fans with joint appearances in public. For example, in 2015, Fox and Lloyd attended the Jimmy Kimmel Show as Doc and Marty in the DeLorean car. It would be an understatement to say that the fans were delighted. The Back to the Future star duo reunited twice in 2020. At first, Fox and Lloyd raised money for people with Parkinson's disease at a charity poker tournament. And then the actors raised funds to fight the pandemic on the Josh Gad YouTube show. The next year, Lloyd reappeared as a mad scientist, but not for long. Adult Swim released a Rick and Morty promo video featuring Christopher Lloyd as Rick.
Morty. Well, oh,
jeez.
It was symbolic, especially if we take into account the series was created as a parody of Back to the Future.
I knew a little bit. I hadn't been watching, but I've seen the characters. I thought it was kind of fun, kind of cool. I just thought it'd be great to see the world of Rick and Morty and Doc and Marty somehow collide out in some galactic, hundreds of millions of miles away.
By the way, we already talked about the series Rick and Morty in another video. So if you're a fan of this animated series, follow the link that appeared on your screen. Once, when a journalist asked Lloyd what would he say to himself at the age of 25 if he had a DeLorean and it would not impact the timeline, he replied,
"Keep at it. Keep doing it. If you do it fairly well, you'll be asked to do it again."
In general, Christopher Lloyd continues to use that advice. In his 80s, he is still acting in films. "I love to work," says Lloyd, "and I'm just gonna keep going as long as I can keep going." One of his recent projects was The Tender Bar, a 2021 comedy drama film directed by George Clooney. Lloyd played a grouchy and grumbling old man, who was the father of the main character. The role, as always, was exciting and multifaceted. We gradually learned that in fact, he was a person with a good heart despite his peculiar character. Christopher Lloyd is a talented actor who devoted his whole life to serving his beloved work. He has more than 80 works in his collection, but Doc remains his most famous character. Some actors who have become famous in cult franchises over time begin to hate their roles, but Lloyd doesn't seem to be one of them. He readily admits that among all his films, Back to the Future has become the most influential and memorable, and the actor is proud of it.
3 or 4 or 5 years, it sank in that this dust doesn't stop. I mean, kids who saw it when the film first came out grew up and had kids they began their lives with it, and so many people have come up to me and saying how I made their childhood, or the film made their childhood, or they became engineers or scientists or surgeons or whatever from the effect of the film on them. And nothing else I've done has had that kind of impact.
And what about Marty McFly? Back to the Future made Michael J. Fox an international star. He was so famous that after the comedy horror movie Teen Wolf, which was filmed before Back to the Future and released a month and a half after Zemeckis' film, he received a huge amount of money.
Most actors, when they've had those lean periods and they get something where they've got some bread coming in, go out and say, "Okay, now I'm going to buy something I've wanted."
Right.
Just out of luxury. Did you do that?
When things weren't going that well, I used to always hate when some young guy about my age would drive by in this, You know, those sports cars, really fancy sports cars with the big tires and everything. I used to hate those jerks. So I went out and bought one.
Glory brought Michael a good income as well as new proposals for the main roles. But even though Michael dreamed of getting into a big movie, he did not quit Family Ties and worked on the series for another 4 years. He also starred in other projects. Between 1987 and 1989, he starred in the comedy Poison Ivy, the musical drama Light of Day, the comedy The Secret of My Success, and the drama Bright Lights, Big City, in which, as you remember, he worked with his future wife. Fox's third dramatic role was Private First Class Max Eckerson in Brian De Palma's Casualties of War. It was strange to see Michael in a violent Vietnam War movie after his image of a time-traveling teenager. Nevertheless, the actor coped with the task. The movie did not make high box office but received a portion of good criticism. It was surprising to observers that Michael J. Fox, who became famous in the sitcom, managed to perform so convincingly at De Palma. Let's be honest, Fox said when the film appeared on the big screens, "If this movie makes $1.50, it's going to be things like Bikinis Away for me. But to fail doing something unexpected is no disgrace. To fail doing the ordinary is a disaster. This movie is about how much you will risk if you have nothing to gain." His next, less serious works, the action comedy The Hard Way and the romantic comedy Doc Hollywood, also received good reviews. It would seem the life of Michael J. Fox improved. His career was developing, his fans adored him, and his beloved wife and son were waiting at home. But everything was not so bright. Either fame played a cruel joke on him or the work schedule became more and more unbearable, but Fox became addicted to alcohol. He became not a hopeless alcoholic, but he often hit the bottle. However, as it turned out very soon, drunkenness was not the worst problem that Fox would face. Once, the actor noticed that his little finger began to tremble in the morning. "I need to drink less," he laughed and went to work. But soon, in 1991, Michael was diagnosed with a terrible diagnosis, Parkinson's disease. It slowly affects the central nervous system, and among its symptoms were muscle rigidity, tremors, and memory impairment. The actor did not diagnose the reason for the disease. According to one version, the stress that Michael received on the set of the first part of Back to the Future and the incident with the rope during the filming of the third are to blame. According to another version, Michael's physical condition was affected by the ecology at the filming location of the TV series Leo and Me. By a strange coincidence, 3 more actors who played in that film were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Michael was only 30 years old when he learned about the diagnosis. The first reaction was, of course, shock. Only one person in 100 after 50 years usually have this disease. The chances are almost zero for a 30-year-old person. However, it happened to Michael. At first, Fox took refuge in alcohol. It seemed that his life was over. This terrible and not fully understood disease destroyed all plans and dreams. The doctor who diagnosed him with Parkinson's said that the actor had just 10 years to act. Fox could finally become an alcoholic, but he was lucky with his loved ones. His friends supported him, including Christopher Lloyd, with whom they remained on good terms after filming, and of course, his wife.
The moment that I told her I was realizing was the last time we cried about it together. We haven't cried about Parkinson's since. We've just dealt with it and lived our lives, but we cried about it that first time, and then that was it, and then we just got back to living with it.
Fox recalled that when he was diagnosed, he asked Tracy if she was ready to go through it with him, and the woman answered yes without hesitation. The actor pulled himself together thanks to his friends and family and his optimism. He stopped drinking and decided to live the remaining years at maximum. Michael said to himself, "The pain will go away, but the movie will remain," and took scripts for future films from the shelf. There were noticeable roles in the comedy Greedy and the comedy horror film The Frighteners. At the same time, almost no one, except for the closest people, knew about his illness for 7 years. Fox continued to work, suffering from Parkinson's symptoms, which limited his activities every day. However, he had starred in 10 films, in half of which he played the lead roles during the 6 years since the medical verdict. Despite Michael's illness, the couple decided to become parents again. In 1995, the actors had twin daughters, Aqueen Kathleen and Skylar Frances, and in 2001, daughter Esme Annabelle. In 1996, Michael J. Fox had the lead role in the sitcom Spin City, which became highly successful, receiving critical acclaim from viewers and critics alike. At first, the actor could successfully hide his illness. Then I sat down one day and thought, I can't keep this secret anymore. It's causing me to obfuscate and it's causing me physical discomfort because I'm trying to contort myself into positions my body doesn't want to be in for the purposes of getting a scene done. By the end of the second season, it was already hard for him to look like a physically healthy man. He worried that his strange movements might alert the public who were unaware of his illness. In 1998, Fox decided to announce his disease. Fans of the series accepted that fact and supported the actor. Fox continued to act in films, and even though he was sick, he was still good. For his role in the TV series Spin City, the actor received Emmy Awards and 3 Golden Globes. But in 2000, he decided to quit Spin City and show business in general. At the age of 40, the symptoms became too obvious. Looking back, Fox admitted he was in a hurry. There were a couple of roles that he did not play, and now he regrets it. For example, the actor was offered the lead role in Ghost. But the situation was developing so fast that he wasn't sure if he was ready to work. On the set of the last season of Spin City, Fox was shaking and staggering all over. It was difficult for him to play with his symptoms. Someone in his shoes would give up, and that is not surprising. But in the end, not everyone can put up with the inability to do what they love due to illness. But Fox tried not to lose heart. Yes, he couldn't play anymore, but he found other ways to express his creativity. For example, he voiced cartoon and movie characters. The heroes of such projects as Stuart Little, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, Archie, and Phineas and Ferb speak in his voice. In addition, Fox decided to write a memoir. The actor has already published 4 books in 2022. Fox also loves to play golf and enjoy life. And I can confidently say that all this does not take away the rest of my energy, Fox says. On the contrary, these activities generate energy. His wife said the following about Fox's inexcusable optimism. Sometimes I underestimate the power of his optimism, but time and time again I've seen him use it to blast his way back. There was another area in which Michael wanted to try himself. In 2000, he created the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Disease Research. The foundation has become the world's largest nonprofit research funder of the disease, investing more than $650 million. At the foundation, Fox is a motivator and a guinea pig. He is trying various methods to live as normal as possible with Parkinson's. And yet, neither work in the foundation nor a happy family life could completely drown out the longing for cinema. A few years after Fox left acting, Parkinson's symptoms noticeably eased, so he began to think about returning. As soon as if knowing the actor's readiness to work, one of the creators of Spin City, Bill Lawrence, invited him to his new project, Scrubs. Michael played the guest role of Dr. Kevin Casey, an eccentric neurosurgeon with obsessive-compulsive disorder. The character showed all the symptoms of OCD, like constant hand-washing, switch-flipping, and vocal tics.
And to us, that kind of makes him Super Doc. Super Doc. Fine. A super doc with obsessive-compulsive disorder.
Okay. How hard can it be for me to step in here left foot first and simultaneously exhale as my right foot plants? How hard?
Those 2 episodes in Scrubs were kind of a test for me, and in my humble opinion, I passed it, Fox recalled. For him, working on the series was kind of a revelation. The actor realized that he could focus less on his problems and not try to hide his symptoms. It had been a great relief for him since Spin City, where he had to hold up a live audience waiting for him to appear while he paced the dressing room and punched the palm of his other hand in an attempt to stop the tremor. The actor says that in Scrubs, instead of fighting Parkinson's disease, he took it with him to the set. While working on the role, Michael suddenly realized that he could transform the symptoms of Parkinson's into the experiences of the character. For example, his inability to stop shaking hands transformed into Kevin Casey's inability to stop washing them.
But here's the punchline. Even though my last surgery was 2 hours ago, I can't stop washing my damn hands.
Fox learned a lot and opened up new opportunities for him during 2 weeks of work on the set of Scrubs. He recalled in his autobiography, "Instead of letting illness take away my profession, I set myself a new challenge, to be a working actor with a disability. I decided to get Parkinson on my side, let him play too, and make him part of the family business. I realized that everyone has their own burden. Every character is struggling with something, no matter who they are or what they do. As an actor, I suddenly wanted a new opportunity to take on this burden. And yes, I was right. I can really play anyone with Parkinson's. After all, as it turned out, everyone has their own Parkinson's." Since then, Fox has started acting again, although not as actively as before. His role in the highly successful series Boston Legal turned out to be exciting. His millionaire character, Daniel Post, has stage 4 cancer. Money won't help him. The writers did an excellent job of writing a doomed character who has money but no future.
Just you're a rich guy, throws his weight around.
Goes hand in hand. Money gives me connections. Connections let me do what I want. Get what I want.
You really don't care what anybody thinks, do you?
I got stage 4 lung cancer. I don't give a damn what anybody I don't know thinks about me. Life's too short.
After the end of filming, I had one main memory: the smell of stage lights, giant structures that illuminated the sidewalk. Fox wrote in his book, "It's the smell of show business. I'm working again, and I love it." The role in the series earned him an Emmy nomination. In 2009, the actor again was nominated for the award for his work in the comedy drama Rescue Me. That time, he received a statuette. And of course, we cannot ignore his role in the series The Good Wife. Charismatic, unscrupulous lawyer Louis Canning suffering from a neurological disorder.
I hope you don't mind me start without you. Now, before I ask you just a few questions, I think I probably owe you an explanation. I suffer from a condition, tardive dyskinesia.
And he managed to use his diagnosis to soften the jury. I love the idea that disabled people can be a-holes too. And although his character was not the lead in the story, as soon as he appeared in the shot, the main characters should get the place to him. It was not surprising that that role brought Michael 2 more Emmy nominations. His stamina is phenomenal, says Fox's longtime producer Nell Fortenberry. Even though Parkinson's is progressive and diminishes what you're physically able to do, he's found ways to shift the focus to what he has rather than what he doesn't have. However, even such an optimist as Fox has moments when it seems to him that his life is hopeless and meaningless. In 2018, he was diagnosed with a benign tumor on his spine, which grew and made the actor feel unbearable pain. He was operated on, but then Fox had to learn to walk again for 4 months. Thinking the worst was over, the actor returned to his New York apartment after a vacation with his family to film a cameo. However, Fox fell in the kitchen and broke his arm before filming. I just snapped. I was leaning against the wall in my kitchen, waiting for the ambulance to come, and I felt like, this is as low as it gets for me. It was when I questioned everything. Like, I can't put a shiny face on this. There's no bright side to this, no upside. This is just all regret and pain. Michael called that moment the darkest in his life. Surprisingly, he managed to pull himself out of the crisis thanks to watching the shows of the 70s and rewatching his films. Even such terrible events in his life could not break him. Michael thinks rationally. He says he doesn't believe scientists will find a cure for Parkinson's during his lifetime. However, Fox tries to live as actively and happy as possible. Live actively and don't let yourself be isolated and marginalized. You need to exercise to live as long as possible with Parkinson's. I'm talking about physical activity and exercise, keeping fit and eating well. Fox continued rarely acting until 2020. All his roles were interesting and multifaceted. and yet the disease gradually exasperated, as his doctor had warned at the very beginning. In 2020, Fox began to feel that he could no longer control his speech. He always spoke quickly, but now his articulation could not keep up with his thoughts, and the actor could often speak unintelligibly. In addition, his memory began to fail him badly. He was always good at remembering lines, but long dialogues in the script became a big problem for him now. For an actor, that means it's time to stop, Fox said. And I did it. Fox continued to work at his foundation and returned to writing books, leaving behind the spotlight and movie cameras. And his beloved Tracy is still by his side for more than 30 years.
Any secrets for anyone for keeping a marriage strong for 30 years?
Well, I have the glib one, which I feel funny saying because my daughters are in the audience, but keep the sex dirty and the fights clean.
There you go. Okay, but
They're so happy.
they're so embarrassed of Dad right now. Oh my gosh.
In early 2022, the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, awarded Michael J. Fox its Purpose Prize Award for his contribution to the research of Parkinson's disease. It was also recently announced that the actor will be awarded an honorary Oscar for contribution to the fight against Parkinson's disease. Michael is pleased with the path he has taken. As a fund manager, he has helped many people with Parkinson's disease to improve their lives, and as an actor, he has inspired many people worldwide with his vivid, memorable roles. He says that many real great guitarists have confessed to him that they picked up a guitar for the first time after seeing Back to the Future and the scene where Marty plays the school prom. If I've done one great thing in my life, at least I pushed John Mayer to become a guitarist. Back to the Future is not just a good movie. It is a pop cultural phenomenon that has inspired thousands of people to become scientists, musicians, and actors. And the actors who played the lead roles received a ticket to a better life, and each of them used it as he wanted. Preparing this video, we realized that the story of the struggle of Michael J. Fox with his illness deserves its own video. Therefore, click on this icon if you want to be inspired by his example and learn more about how he manages to be optimistic. There, we've collected even more facts about what Michael went through. There are also many of the actor's more interesting, powerful quotes about faith, life, and more. Follow the link and take a look. Like this video and stay with us. There are a lot of interesting videos ahead.